I believe we should list the house at this price. You never should tie yourself to anything. You need to present the data, and the data does all the recommendations. The data suggests the price. The data suggests what the sellers should do, not you. Your opinion here is irrelevant. Your job as a great listing agent is to present concrete evidence, such like an attorney does in court, so that the sellers are presented with the facts without your emotion, right? There's no room for emotion with real estate agents. Although, be honest, most of us in this industry are emotional wrecks. There's no room for emotion. We have to present the facts, present the data, present the case to the seller so that the seller can make their own decisions. Keep your opinions out of it. Number 6, if your seller, this one's a massive one. If your seller asks you for an update, you failed. You failed miserably. And here's what I mean by this. Your job as a listing agent is to be a master communicator. And not just master communicator, proactive communication. So what you need to get really good at is playing chess, not checkers. You need to be thinking 2, 3, 4, 5 moves ahead and communicating all of that to the seller as early as possible. If there is even a thought of something that potentially could come up, don't wait. Don't wait for it to happen or not happen and then have your seller say, hey, what's up with this? The second somebody asks you something like that and you have to react to it, just tell yourself, failed on that one. I missed on that one. I could have told the seller about that up front. I didn't want to bring it up. I was hoping they were going to miss it. I hope it wasn't going to come up. It always comes up. What can go wrong will go wrong in a listing. If you've ever listed a home, you absolutely know that that is true. So your job is to be proactive. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's some things that have happened in the past that I just want you to be aware of. They might not happen, but if they do, hey, it's okay. We've got options, and here's how we would handle that. Okay, get in front of things, communicate proactively. And this is just a really good lesson for life too. I mean, nobody likes flaky people that hide behind stuff. People really respect people that are proactive communicators. Number 7, having what I call a list to list philosophy versus having a list to sell philosophy. So many real estate agents, including myself, in the beginning was like, well, dude, I just want the listing. I'll just do whatever I have to do to get the listing. And if it sells is an afterthought. And so with that philosophy comes essentially 1 through 6. Okay. Think about this for a second. Here's what I mean. If you go into a situation without having a philosophy that I'm going to sell the house, like whatever it takes, I'm going to list this home and it's going to sell with 100% certainty. There's zero chance that I'm not selling this home. If you go into it anything other than that mindset, you won't price it right. You will deal with unmotivated sellers. You will do whatever the seller asks you to do, whether that be reasonable or not. And you won't tell the truth. And everything you say will be emotion-based without the data. So that's the difference. Having a list to sell philosophy means the exact invert of, or the exact opposite of that, right? It's you telling the seller the truth. It's you presenting the data in a way that suggests what the home should sell for, not your opinion. Everything goes right when you can position the relationship between you and the seller, and you can say things to the seller, listen, I only list homes that I sell. Like there's a 0% likelihood that we don't sell as long as you and I are on the same page. And so that is my philosophy. That is my intentions going into this. So if you have any reservations, let's talk about those now. Okay. So that was a huge one that I learned. Number 8, professional photos matter a lot. Okay. So I cannot tell you how many times. Well, and here's why. There's something called click-through ratio. And so if you're a new agent, you might not understand that. But the CTR on residential real estate sales means when somebody clicks on a listing online, what percentage of them are scheduling a showing? And this took me a long time. I mean, this took me, years and years and years to really understand this. But what drives the needle, what drives that KPI is professional photos. So what we have to do as professional marketers is we have to put the seller's home out in the marketplace with its best foot forward. So the job of the photos is to get the click that then leads to a private showing. And so if the second, where's my phone at? The second you pull out this phone and you start taking photos should be the very moment you walk out of the house and not list the home. That is how that's how passionate I am about this, that these agents that are out there taking their own photos with their cell phones are doing such a disservice to the community, and they're costing their sellers thousands and thousands of dollars. And so just don't do it. Number 9, present options without bias. Okay, so one of the lessons that I've learned, they're all big. I mean, this is a big, big one though for me. I would present things in a way with a bias, and the feedback I would get from my clients would be that they felt as though I was working for the other party. And I hear this all the time with new agents as well. Because you want what's best for your client, right? So here, let me give you an example. So you get a great offer in, right? And you have, let's just say, 2 or 3 offers. And one's all cash, and then there's one that's conventional, that may be higher price. This is a really good example. And through your experience, you always know that dealing with a cash buyer is better than dealing with finance contingencies. There's too many things that could go wrong. Well, when you present those offers to a seller and you're pressuring them to take the cash one, here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to do. I'm telling you, here's what you need to do. The cash one's better. Do the cash one. I know the other one it gets you more money, but this is better. This is better. What happens is when you have that type of bias, the sellers start to think, well, is this better for me or is this better for you? Well, do you work for me or do you work for the buyer? I'm not sure how you're presenting the information. That crushed me for a long time. And so now what I do that I highly recommend that you do as well is that we present all of the options without bias from the standpoint of having the seller make their own decisions, and we support their decision and we back their decision and we fight for their decision no matter what. And so we can explain that to the seller. Listen, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here are the options. Here's what we can do. Here's typically my recommendation. But listen, at the end of the day, I will go to bat for whatever you decide on. So if you decided to go with offer number 2, awesome. I will fight tooth and nail to make sure that happens for you. Right? And so that was a huge, huge, huge learning for me. And then number 10, never ever say offer until it is in writing. 2, I made the mistake too many times. You talk to somebody, an agent, who says, hey, we just showed the property. My buyers love it. We're going to go back to my office and write an offer. You act like the little boy on prom night. You call the seller and you say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, great news. I got great feedback. I just talked to Bob from Remax and he's going to be sending us an offer. Huge, huge mistake. And I made it all the time, that I'm hoping that you don't make it anymore. If you've ever worked with a buyer, you just know, there's nothing against any buyers specifically, but you just know how emotional buyers are. They'll walk through a home and say, this is the one, this is the one, this is the one. And in 60 minutes, call you like, that's not the one. There's this other one we want to go see. And you're like, dude, I just told the sellers we're writing an offer, right? It happens all the time. So don't get emotional. Don't get all excited. We're setting expectations. You're a professional. Act as if you've been here before. You don't say anything about an offer until that offer not only is in your inbox, but that offer has been reviewed by you. You've flushed out the offer with the buyer's agent. You flushed out the offer with the buyer's lender. All of that has to happen before you ever say the O word. And then when you have the offer and you're ready to present, don't ever call the seller out of the blue and say, hey, good news, I got an offer. Can I walk you through the details? You're catching the seller totally off guard. They're not in an emotional state to process the information. And so don't ever do that. Schedule it. Let them know, hey, I've got great news. I got an offer after you've done what I just told you, and then schedule that conversation. So hopefully you have some takeaways. Hopefully you can avoid some pitfalls that I made that cost me a lot of stress, but I learned a lot, right? I learned a lot that hopefully you've learned. And so if you have questions, let me know. And if you found value in content like this, feel free to subscribe to the channel. I'd love to have you part of the community. You can always change your mind later, right? So if you found value, subscribe to the channel. Let me know how I can serve you in the comments, and we'll see you guys in another video very soon. Thank you guys so much for your time and your attention today.